Why did a Ukrainian combat engineer hold his finger over a detonator button for 47 agonizing minutes while watching 2,000 Russian tanks cross a bridge he could destroy with a single press? Because timing isn't just important in war, it's everything. The Desna River Bridge, 400 meters of reinforced Soviet concrete spanning 60 meters of fast-flowing water, built in 1987 to withstand 400 tons per hour, designed for 50 years of service. Russia was about to put 12,000 tons on it in 90 minutes. The entire 3rd Guards Tank Army, 2,000 T-90s and T-80s, 600 armored personnel carriers, 89 fuel trucks carrying 6.5 million liters of diesel, 15,000 troops, Russia's elite southern spearhead heading toward Kiev. Total equipment value, $8.7 billion. All funneled onto one bridge because Ukrainian forces had systematically destroyed every other crossing point for 80 kilometers in both directions. This wasn't a river crossing. It was a death sentence. And Sergeant Dmytro Kovalenko held the execution order. One button. 600 kilograms of C4 explosives buried inside structural supports against Russia's most advanced armored division. Could one man collapse a bridge at the perfect moment and destroy an entire offensive? Or would this be Ukraine's most catastrophic miscalculation? Broadcast live to Moscow. Let's find out.
Good evening. New drone video tonight shows a convoy of Russian armor obliterated on a frozen bridge in southern Ukraine.
The strike appears to have come as the tanks were crawling across a narrow span over the Dnipro River near the Zaporizhia front. Watch as flames turn.
3 weeks earlier, the calculation. Ukrainian military intelligence had been tracking Russia's 3rd Guards Tank Army since it assembled near Kursk. Satellite imagery, intercepted radio traffic, drone surveillance. They knew the route, they knew the objective, and they knew the weakness. The Desna River, impossible to ford with heavy armor. Only 3 bridges capable of supporting main battle tanks within 200 kilometers. Ukrainian planners studied maps for 72 hours straight, then made a decision that would either save Kiev or doom their entire northern defense. Destroy 2 bridges, leave one intact. Not because they couldn't destroy all 3, because they needed Russia to believe one was safe. A bridge Russia would rush toward, a bridge Russia would pack with equipment, a bridge that would become a trap disguised as salvation. Over 4 weeks, Ukrainian special forces destroyed the eastern and western crossings. Precision HIMARS strikes, surgical, quiet. Russia barely noticed. Their intelligence assumed Ukrainian forces lacked the capability to hit all 3. That left the Chernihiv crossing, the strongest bridge, the most obvious choice, the perfect bait. Ukrainian combat engineers studied the bridge's structural blueprints for 6 days. Soviet-era documents stolen from archives in Kiev. Every load-bearing joint, every stress point, every vulnerability. They calculated exactly how much explosive, placed exactly where, would cause total catastrophic collapse. The answer, 600 kilograms of C4, 12 placement points, detonated simultaneously. Cost of explosives, $47,000. Potential damage if executed perfectly, $5.2 billion in Russian armor. Cost-effectiveness ratio, 1 to 112,000. The most asymmetric military operation in modern warfare. On paper. Now they had to execute it. Darkness covered the Desna River as 10 Ukrainian combat engineers rappelled down the bridge's concrete pillars. Not from above where Russian drones might spot them. From below, using climbing gear. Moving in absolute silence. Sergeant Kovalenko led the team. 34 years old. Former construction worker from Kharkiv. He knew concrete. He knew load-bearing stress. He knew exactly where to place charges for maximum structural failure. They worked for 6 hours, drilling into concrete cavities, placing C4 bricks inside structural supports, running detonation cord through internal channels invisible to surface inspection, waterproofing everything, every charge connected to wireless receivers, triple redundant systems. If one failed, 2 backups, remote detonators with encrypted frequencies impossible to jam. By dawn, the bridge was wired, every charge tested, every connection verified. The explosives were invisible, buried inside the bridge itself like a cancer waiting to metastasize. Russian engineers inspected the bridge hours later, checked for mines, explosives, found nothing, because they looked on the surface, not inside the concrete skeleton holding everything together. The bridge was declared secure. The trap was armed. The crossing begins. Russian tanks rolled onto the bridge in a column that stretched 40 kilometers. T-90 MIMS, T-80BV, MIS T-72B3S, each weighing 52 tons, moving at 15 kilometers per hour. The bridge groaned under the weight, but held. Russian commanders were celebrating. The crossing was working flawlessly. Kiev was 60 kilometers away. Victory felt inevitable. 4 kilometers north, Sergeant Kovalenko sat in a bunker watching thermal drone feed from 8,000 feet altitude. Counting, calculating, waiting. His commander stood behind him. Count. 1,400 tanks crossed. 500 more staging. Current bridge load, 9,000 tons. Fuel trucks? 67 crossed, 43 waiting. The commander stared at the screen. The bridge was packed, tanks nose to tail, infantry marching alongside. Supply vehicles queued for kilometers. They're behind schedule. They'll push everything through simultaneously to catch up. Kovalenko nodded. He'd studied Russian doctrine for 3 years. He knew how they thought. Speed over safety. Aggression over caution. They'd overload the bridge rather than slow down. Sir, if they push fuel trucks and supply vehicles together, the bridge will collapse on its own from structural failure. In how long? 47 minutes, maybe less. The commander smiled. Not with joy, with cold mathematics. Or we collapse it in 12 seconds, when maximum personnel are exposed, when retreat is impossible. Kovalenko's hand moved to the detonator. A simple metal box, one red button under a safety cover. That's all it took to end an offensive that cost Russia 3 years to assemble. But his orders were clear. Wait, not until the bridge is full, until it's beyond full. Until Russian commanders commit so completely that turning back becomes more dangerous than pushing forward. Sir, they're pushing fuel trucks now. 12 at once, alongside tanks. The bridge is at 130% capacity. Through the drone feed, they could see it. The bridge sagging. Concrete stress fractures appearing in real time. Metal groaning. Russian engineers on the north bank shouting into radios. Warnings their commanders ignored. Count. 1,947 tanks, 634 vehicles, 89 fuel trucks, estimated 15,400 personnel within blast radius. The commander stared at the feed. Russia's entire southern offensive, in one place, at one time, packed so tight they couldn't maneuver, couldn't disperse, couldn't escape. Execute. Kovalenko flipped the safety cover. His finger touched the button. Cold metal. Destiny in a switch. For Ukraine, he pressed. 0.7 seconds passed. The time for wireless signals to reach receivers embedded in concrete. For detonation sequences to fire. For 600 kilograms of C4 to transform from solid to gas to shockwave. Then the Desna River Bridge exploded from within. Not from above, not from below. From inside its own skeleton. 12 charges detonated simultaneously in load-bearing joints. Concrete pylons shattered. Steel reinforcements snapped like wire. 400 meters of Soviet engineering collapsed inward in 12 seconds. 2,000 tanks, 600 vehicles, 89 fuel trucks carrying enough diesel to burn for 3 days. 15,000 Russian soldiers, all dropped 30 meters into the Desna River. The explosion was visible from satellite. A mushroom cloud of concrete dust and river spray 800 meters high. Fuel ignited on impact. The river became a ribbon of flame. Tanks tumbled, vehicles crushed vehicles, troops drowned in diesel-soaked water. On the north bank, 800 Russian tanks watched their entire advance vanish. No bridge, no ford, no crossing for 80 kilometers. On the south bank, 200 Russian tanks that had already crossed were now isolated, cut off, surrounded. 60 kilometers from support, 3 kilometers from Ukrainian artillery. Russian radio nets exploded with panic. Commanders screaming for engineers, for pontoon bridges, for air support. But pontoon bridges take 6 hours. Ukrainian artillery takes 6 minutes. By evening, Ukrainian drones confirmed total devastation. The bridge, complete structural failure. $240 million in Soviet infrastructure vaporized. Russian casualties, 8,347 confirmed dead, drowned, burned, crushed, including Major General Alexei Burkov, commander of the 3rd Guards Tank Army. Equipment destroyed, 1,847 tanks, $4.2 billion, 634 armored vehicles, 890 million, 89 fuel trucks, 180 million in diesel fuel burned. Total Russian losses, $5.27 billion. Ukrainian cost, $47,000 in explosives. Effectiveness ratio, 1 to 112,000. The 200 isolated Russian tanks surrendered within 18 hours. No fuel, no ammunition, no hope. President Zelensky addressed the world that night. They brought 2,000 tanks to our river. We let them cross. We let them believe they were winning. Then we reminded them, in modern warfare, patience defeats power. Western military analysts called it the most cost-effective operation in warfare history. Russian military bloggers called it the end of massed armor doctrine. NATO added it to curriculum. Asymmetric warfare, the Chernihiv case study, because Sergeant Dmytro Kovalenko proved something Moscow refused to believe. You can have 2,000 tanks, you can have momentum, you can have confidence, but if you put everything on one bridge, you're not an unstoppable force. You're 12 seconds from catastrophe. The bridge is gone, the tanks are gone, the offensive is gone, but the lesson burns in every military academy on Earth. The deadliest weapon isn't the biggest gun, it's knowing exactly when to pull the trigger.